experiment. And our first presentation is from Professor Ruige Xu, who is from Syracuse University in computer art. Her work sits at the intersection of AI, data visualization, experimental animation, and interactive media. And her focus, creative and research focus, are on how emerging technologies are reshaping creative practice, authorship, and aesthetic experience. And her project have been shown internationally at venues like SIGGRAPH, Arts Etc., ISEA, IEEE Viz. And she also takes very extensive leadership roles in fields such as serving as chair of the ACM SIGGRAPH Digital Arts Committee. She's been co-chaired for the IEEE Viz Arts Program for several years, and also co-founder of the China Viz Arts Program. And Rebecca has a very rich background, spans computer animation, visual effects, digital media, and UX design across both China and the United States. So please join me to welcome a very good friend, Rebecca Xu.
All right, thank you, Yvette, for the lovely introduction. Give me a minute to share my screen. All right. Okay. Well, there's one thing. Hold on. Let me try. Because I do okay. I do have an animation inside my slides, but I don't think I can play it because I don't see the sound options on. So, but anyway, well, let's get started. First of all, I want to thanks to Ohio State Department of Design for organizing this wonderful event, and I thought it's very timely and very important to discuss things related to how to teaching AI in the creative sense. So. And thanks for the invitation from Professor Yvette Sen, and thanks for everyone to being here to be here. So today I'm gonna talk about how to design an AI studio and try to basically teaching creative workflow experimentation and the creative critical making in the sense of in the context of AI. My work largely focus on data art, experimentation, animation, experimental animation, and interactive media. And the course I will be talking about here is a course I offered last year, CAR 530, AI in Creative Practice. So immediately I find some of the teaching problem I need to address. The first is the students are already using AI tools, but their knowledge are fragmented. And most of what they learn is tool-based, how to prompt, how to generate, but there's very little about how to make it into a project, how to incorporate it into their own creative process. So it's basically there's a lack of a coherent creative process. Sorry. And it's very difficult to turn their outputs into project. And another thing is the students in the class, they are from various art and design field. So they're from animation, illustration, design, and multimedia art. So there's a wide variety of field in the class. And because of that, so it make the how to teaching AI in this sense even more challenging. So the course is a studio-based course in art and design. Okay, and the goal is to incorporate AI as part of a creative workflow. And the focus is on making a full project. Then the final outcome, the format is not limited. So there's animation, video, illustration, or website type of interactive work are allowed in the class. So this workflow becomes the backbone of the course. It moves from idea to story to visual concept to assets building to motion and then to final. Of course, it's adjusted based on different type of project. Okay, different tools are plugged into different stages, but the no tools dominance. The tools, ChatGPT, MidJourney, they are required tools. So just so students have something to use. However, during the class, students actually use a lot of tools. One of the things I will talk later about is the part of the class is the student also introduce their own tools, the tools that they find, the AI tools, and to the class, and then other students can use it. Because of that, so there's a large number of AI tools being used in this class. The focus of this workflow is actually on iteration, experimentation, and selection. So the goal is to, from a focus on AI output to more change to AI decision making. So the course is structured around a proposal, midterm, and a final, which is a very typical studio class. So it's a familiar structure for the student, and they feel very comfortable with. So all the process are required to be documented. So the process documentation and the reflection are very important part of this class. And like I mentioned, each week the student will present the tools, as well as we will talk about weekly AI highlights. So that's actually I find something very interesting. So for that one, student can bring in class anything related to AI development in that week. So don't necessarily have to be related to creative practice, but rather in the larger AI field. And that I find it's a very good way to keep a student be completely aware of the current development of AI and engaged into the field. So assignment are open-ended. So the student can produce animation, branding, or comics, or website. So based on their own interest. And but like I mentioned, what is required is a process documentation. They need to show how they got there, not just what they made. And multiple tools are encouraged. And also, I stress there's no single correct workflow. This is what the general workflow look like in practice. Of course, it varies depending on the student, the project that they are working on, right? So they would start with ideas and references. So if a student making animation project, they would start with general ideas and then they would develop into a story. And from the story, they would create a short list. And of course, they would need to show the reference image they would be using for their project. And then the next part would be the generate and iterate with the AI tool. The example I show here are character design for the previous script we saw. And so as well as the storyboard also generated with AI tools. Then moving along, from there, they refine both visual directions and narratives. So this is the for the same project, the set environment. You can see very clearly the AI generated part because the font on the top of the market has a lot of mistake there. Okay. All right. And finally, the student would assemble everything into a finished piece. What this slide shows is a progression. And so it's from text and story development to generate the specific character design, concept art, to the visual styles and add motion in, then piece everything together. So. There's actually sound, so I'm not sure if you can hear it, but I just want to show a little bit of this. This one is another example because there are different, there are quite a few different, wider range of approach. And this is another piece of narrative work, and it was done by Adam Hazim. And it's a pure, this one's from the beginning to the end. It's pure AI generated animation. It's quite lovely.
As they passed through a shop, Yusuf spotted a shortcut he had seen before. It was a narrow alley leading straight to his father's shop.
Can you hear the sound? Anybody?
Raced with excitement.
Yes, we can.
Let go of
Oh,
his
okay,
mother's
good.
hand and darted down the alley. But when he emerged on the other side, the bazaar looked different. The familiar rug shop was nowhere to be seen. Stalls filled with copper pots, silk scarves, and piles of pomegranates lined the way, but none of them belonged to his father. A soft meow caught his attention, a sleek golden cat with bright green eyes setting on top.
All right. So that's a short clip. And for this one, also the student very quickly started to explore different way to work with the AI tool. So for this particular project, the student actually combined their 2D character design and with AI generated image and also live action footage they shot and all put it together into this one piece. This is actually a music video piece, a short one. So, yeah. This is an example from a design student, and it's a kind of AI branding. So it's AI branding for cruising company, and so as you can see, there's a style guide, include the logo, the color, the typography. And also there's a poster design, there's website design come with it, and also a promotion video. All right. This would be another very interesting one as well. On the right side, the black and white part is actually the final outcome. The final outcome is a hand-drawn comic book. So there's many more panel who's they're not here because the space limitation. But the student actually produced a comic book, a hand-drawn comic book. However, as you can see, he used the AI tools purely to generate reference images. Some of them you can see very clearly. For instance, the character design has a close resemblance from the character the AI generated, and also things like this, and resemble things like that. So some of them are more obvious, some of them are less obvious. So this I thought is quite interesting. This is the case that I would expect it would be stay in the digital space. However, the student expanded this into the real world, so it has a tangible comic book come out from this project. So. Okay. Students learned how to combine tools effectively. They developed a judgment when to trust the outputs and when to question them. And iteration become a part of their thinking. And also, they learned how to develop a project over this semester-long time. There are also challenges. A lot of work start to look familiar, yeah, and they're over-reliance on certain AI aesthetics. And so initially I had quite a few images here, and then I got tired to look at them. So I removed all of them. But I think we all know what I'm talking about here. So that's the thing. We talked a lot about the style seamlessness, and in the context of as an artist, as a designer, how do we find our own voice when you use AI tools, right? So thus those discussions fed into their exploration while they're working on their project. Also, another thing I found is the shallow concept early on. So when students start developing their concept with AI tools, it tend to stay at the very surface level. If students come in with an original idea that usually works slightly better, and the student can keep pushing it with the AI's help. If a student purely depend on the AI tools to generate the idea for them, and it tend to it's mediocre ideas. That's what AI tools can do, and also that was discussed and addressed. And even we started with a mediocre idea, we discussed how can we, through our own research, to push it further into something has a little bit more, has more depth and meaningful. Another thing is tool overload, and this is particularly obvious later on in the semester after we introduced. I introduced a few tools, and through the presentation, student presentation, a lot more tools got introduced, and so student, there's a little bit of tool overload. And thus some of the students, because they are so excited to explore different tools, and they spend a lot of time into the learning about the tools, and thus kind of reduce the time they work on their project. So what worked? A few things worked particularly well. Clear milestones give students a direction, as always, and the process documentation helped them reflect. On the right side, I have this example. I actually asked the student to write about the thing, write about actually put down their prompts and also their outcomes. So that's one example. And also I give the student the choice of tools they like to use. So some of them didn't necessarily use MidJourney, but rather they use the tools they feel familiar with, they feel comfortable with. And also there are other tools, particularly with the sound tools were all introduced by the student. I didn't even talk about the sound tools. And those are all the sound made through the AI tools introduced in class. Another thing is of course, the peer presentation and critiques create this sense of learning community. And as the semester progress, the student become quite active. And we truly feel we are, as a class, including me, we are learning together. Quickly, for ethics, my approach is a full AI use is allowed, but disclosure is required, and the reflection is emphasized. And the goal is not a restriction, but awareness. So, and this can be seen from this little paragraph the student wrote as a part of the end of the semester report. Yeah. All right. The takeaway for instructors, if I summarize this, would be this 4 points. So it would be teach the workflow working with the AI tools, not just the tools. Build around a project, all projects. And it will be to try to support multiple entry point, depending on the student project. They don't necessarily always follow the workflow exactly the same way. And also that leads to the last point, to balance the structure and flexibility when working with different students with on their different projects. To close, AI is become a part of the creative practice, but the studio model still works, and in some way matters even more now. So when we're teaching AI in the studio content, so we should encourage experimentation and reflection. Through this process, we can help our students to integrate various AI tools into their creative practice. Thanks, and I'm looking forward to discussion and questions in the later part.